Okay, good morning. We're going to get the Education Committee started for September 9. Start with the quorum. We have at least 4 members present, so we can proceed. And Karen Kidder is on, so there's 6 of us present. Is there any on-site packet that we need to review?
No on-site packet.
Okay, thank you. Any additions or revisions to the agenda?
Madam Chair, the only thing that we have is we do have Scott Bruner from KDAD's coming at 10. So I don't think we need to alter the agenda, but just to be aware, we may need to skip to that point when he is able to be on. That's the time we so,
And thank you for coming in person.
that I didn't get clarification on, but I'm thinking on Zoom. So he's another one we may have to look for him on the
What was the name?
Scott Bruner.
Okay, Colton, did you hear that, or Adrian's letting you know about Scott at 10? And we'll just adjust.
I don't think we sent him a separate link.
I'll keep my eyes
So-
open. Can I get that name one more time?
Scott Bruner,
Scott Bruner. Okay.
thank you.
Any other additions or revisions for the agenda? I was gonna ask the committee, we have under B, the LMHT CNE requirement discussion, then under unfinished A, we have the LMHT rule. If we want to combine those at one time at 10 o'clock when we have Scott, if that's okay. Okay,
That makes sense. Yep.
okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, announcements. Michelle, would you please come to the front? We would like to thank you for your service on the Education Committee. We wish we could have you for a little longer, but we understand you've done your service and we greatly appreciate that. So we'd like to recognize you. And of course, do we want to have Carol and Janelle in the picture as
Sure.
well?
Sure.
Or just Carol.
Okay.
I've been in quite a few.
Okay, thank you. Any additional announcements at this time? Okay. Then we will move on to our June 10th minutes for approval.
Move to approve the June 10th, 2025 Education Committee minutes as written.
Michelle, second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries for approval for June 10th minutes. We will move to our consent item agendas, starting with the nursing education staff report. Janelle?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I just have a couple things I want to highlight in the staff report, nothing too major, but in terms of the priority objective 3, I just wanted to bring to your attention, we did do one on-site visit this summer, which is a little unusual, but was initial visit for Chamberlain University, and we will be talking about that later. We did have notification from the University of Kansas that their adult gerontology primary care nurse practitioner program is closing. Low census, they have completed everybody. There's nobody left in that track. Their adult gerontology acute care will continue, but this one is being closed. And then we had one nursing program administrator change since the last time. Highland Community College, Anna Fowler retired, and Dr. Patty Palmietto has been named as the new director. She began July 1st. I think the other thing in the other education activities, there's one other thing. I do a lot of surveys, give input to a lot of education surveys from NCSBN. All the other boards that are part of NCSBN often ask questions like we do. I've done this just for some to kind of get the input of all. And I just thought it was very interesting that this time around, there was one on out-of-state programs and clinical sites. I've been hearing more as I've been out that people are having a lot of competition with out-of-state programs who are using clinical sites in Kansas. And depending on where they are in the state, that can cause some issues for them. And so this was asking what people have rules about, and some states do have rules about whether other out-of-state programs can do clinical sites, or they at least have to let the board know that they're in the state, certain kinds of things. So it's just something to be aware of. It was a very interesting survey, and I'm waiting for the results to be closed so that I can get the whole thing, and if it's something you're interested in me bringing back. But I just think because of we've had some increase in our own programs and want to have clinical sites, and just the awareness of, we don't have any control over facilities, so they can accept who they want. We do know some out-of-state programs are now paying facilities for preceptors and time, so it gets to be a little hard to compete. And I don't know that we can limit, but if we're aware, maybe we can help facilities be aware too, if it's creating issues for Kansas programs. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, just as an FYI and a little bit of something to think about. Under other, we are seeing Scott Bruner here today. That was, remember, a follow-up. The LMHT task force had asked Carol and I to meet with him and kind of try and look at what the current status was. And after our conversation, he asked about, being here to be able to answer questions. And we thought maybe that was the best way to approach some of your questions and having him here. So I think that was a good meeting, but I'm glad he's coming here also to talk with you. Annual report, we had 68 programs complete the undergraduate survey. All of those were submitted on time. NCSBN has been doing cleanup. I usually have the data by now, but we've had a couple programs that the data is not quite, it just doesn't make sense yet. So we're doing a last final look at that to see if we can get those straightened up. And then once we do, I should have that data. So we're still on track to have that at the December meeting. It's just a little more delayed than usual. I think, the one other thing, and you will see it in here, is that we did, per suggestion the last time, added the complaint log to my staff report. That's where we ended up putting that. So it will come as part of my staff report. If there's anything in the future that you want to pull out of it, it will remain in the consent agenda, but it can also be pulled out if there's any further question. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, but that's how that got put in there. And I also want to tell you that I got them turned around. So 17 is actually the first page, and then 16 that's the flow. So it might look a little, the dates are there, but it was a little confusing when I first looked at it too. So I think that's all I have, unless there are questions.
Thank you. Did the committee wish to discuss the complaint log at this time? Are there any comments or questions about it, or do we want to discuss it later?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. And then we also have the petition to test and retest, and since it's on the consent agenda, it should be one motion unless we want to separate anything.
I didn't like to separate it.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent item agenda, which includes nursing education staff report, complaint log education, 2025 and 26 site visit schedules, petition to test, retest, summary 5/13/25 through 8/12/25.
Thank you, Michelle.
A second.
Thank you for the second. Thank you, Dan. Is the back stuffy too? We can maybe put one middle to back. Thank you. We asked for air and they come. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Abstentions, the motion carries. Yes. Okay. He's getting the fans on for us. Thanks for your answer.
Thank you.
We will move on to our first site, or our only site visit report, Chamberlain University. And are they here? Okay, we'll let them come up to the table to join us. And for those in the back, I'm really trying to project my voice, but if it gets quiet, just give me, I see Laura back there, give me a little wave if we need to speak up.
Good morning.
Good morning. There were a couple of other items on the consent agenda. I just wanted to be certain that you're ready for us.
Yes, no, the consent agenda was just approved, so we're good.
And this starts on page 21, the report. And we'll let you introduce yourselves.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Torna Liker, and I'm the Executive Dean, Academic Operations and Program Administrator for Chamberlain University. We're in the process of initial approval by the Kansas State Board of Nursing for a pre-licensure BSN program. And with me today is Dr. Barbara Hall, Vice President of Accreditation and Professional Regulation with the university. We would like to say thank you to Janelle and Dr. Pyle for their collaboration and thoroughness during our site visit. I want to say it was a wonderful experience and a thorough experience. Thank you. And we'll answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. So the report has been here and I'm scanning through as you get towards the end. The strengths are on page 32 and the recommendation follows. Did the board have any questions?
I don't.
I'd be happy to entertain a motion.
I move to accept the initial site visit report for Chamberlain University BSN program with initial approval to admit up to 120 students annually with 3 start times, September, January, and May, and a follow-up site visit to be done after the first graduation and before requesting additional students.
Thank you, Angela.
I second.
Thank you, Ruth. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Abstentions. Motion carries. Thank you very much for coming. I know it's a trip to come here, but we do appreciate if there's questions. It's great that you're here to answer them, and I'm glad you had such a good experience with the site visit.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a privilege to be here. It's fun.
We will now move to our new business, and Rasmussen actually has 2 requests. Not sure if
I failed to get them on there twice.
Yes. And do we have someone here from, yes, thank you. Yay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for allowing me to come today. Yes, so we do have 2 requests. The first one is to get alignment with the CNA standards. The BSN programs updated our SLOs, and so part of it's to get that alignment to the essentials.
And that begins on page 33 with the CCNE standard request to change the SLOs. Yes, okay, perfect.
Okay.
Any discussion or questions?
Madam Chair, I move to accept the major curriculum change request from Rasmussen University BSN program to align with the CCNE standards and update the student learning outcomes to align with the 10 domains for nursing as part of the new 2021 AACN essentials.
Motion
Michelle Terry, second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Abstentions. Motion carries. Okay, your second request begins on page 39 of the packet.
And the second request is to increase the number of admitted students for our BSN program, and that would be just for the Overland Park campus, not the Topeka. And currently, we're admitting 10 students per quarter, and we would like to increase that to 20 students per quarter. We've seen an increase in the number of students that want to come there, and so we have about an average of 5 students per quarter on the wait list. Currently, for our October start, we're sitting at, we have 20 that are wanting to get into it. And
That's
so,
great. That's
yeah.
great.
yeah,
That's
it's
for the
really,
workforce shortage. in
Absolutely.
Kansas.
yes, we've seen our numbers actually going up quite a bit, so.
Wonderful. Any questions?
I move to accept the major curriculum change from Rasmussen University BSN program to increase the number of admitted students from 10 to 20 students per quarter at the Overland Park campus while maintaining the enrollment of 10 students per quarter at the Topeka campus, starting in January 2026.
Thank you, Ruth.
A second.
Thank you, Angela. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Abstention. Motion carries. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Our next request is from Fort Hayes. This one begins on page 55. Good morning.
Hi, we have program outcome changes and course outcome changes for both our BSN and our DMP program. And those are two different requests, but they're the same request for both of them, and we've listed those all up for both for you.
Any questions?
I think we have them as two separate motions, just so we know.
Yes, they are gonna be as two motions since it's the two programs.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the major curriculum change request from Fort Hays State University BSN program to change the BSN program outcomes incorporating the 2021 AEC essential domains and concepts with changes to course titles, course descriptions, and course outcomes within the BSN program as needed to incorporate the 2021 AEC essential domains and concepts.
Michelle second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Abstentions, the motion carries. And then the second request is for the DNP. Any questions? And it is on page 77.
Yeah. Madam Chair, I move to accept the major curriculum change request from Fort Hays State University DMP program change to incorporate the 2021 AACN Essentials Domains and Concepts with changes to course titles, course descriptions, and course outcomes within the DMP program as needed to incorporate the 2021 AACN Essentials Domains and Concepts.
Thank you, Michelle.
This is Debbie also.
Thank you, Becky. We have a motion and a second discussion. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Abstentions. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Our next one is from Ottawa. Ruth, will you be moving or do you have another?
Samantha said the BSN program director cannot connect to speak or show her camera, and I don't see her on there. She said she can hear everything.
That's because, Colton, can you look for Samantha
Samantha
Young
Young.
and move her to? I made an assumption. that you
I got
were doing it. Okay, thank you.
There she is.
There she is.
There I am. Hello. Thank you all, and thank you for giving me access. I am Dr. Samantha Young. I'm the BSN Program Director at Ottawa University, and we would like to request a couple of changes that are connected. The first is that we have a creation of a new Intro to Pharmacology course. The rationale behind that is that students kind of struggle with pharmacology in 8 weeks. So we want to give them a firmer foundation before they move into more intense pharmacology. So in order to keep our overall program the same, we also want to decrease our capstone from 6 credit hours to 4. And that will be more in line with eliminating the redundancy that we have between the capstone and the leadership course that they take at the same time.
So that means no change overall to your credit hours.
Correct. And no change to clinical number of hours either.
Any questions for Samantha?
Madam Chair, I move to accept the major curriculum change request from Ottawa University to divide pharmacology into 2 courses, Intro to Pharmacology Term 2 for 2 credit hours, Pharmacology Term 3 for 3 credit hours, and to decrease capstone from 6 to 4 hours with no change in overall didactic hours remains at 6.
Thank you, Michelle.
Michelle Terry, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes. And I abstain.
Opposed, no. And we have 1 abstention. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Samantha, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Sorry we made that difficult.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Highland Community College. There's 2 requests. Good morning, Patty. Good morning. This begins on page 120.
So I have 2 requests, one for each program. For the LPN, we want to do some altercations with our hours. We're dropping a clinical hour out of foundations, keeping 1, dropping 1, and we're going to add that to the PN process and success class that we have. We've seen the difference in when we spend more time with them, learning how to become a nursing student, and we want to actually expand on that because some of the people we're getting in now have been out for 5 or 6 years from school. So we want to make their success a little easier. We do want to add a 1 credit hour concept synthesis course to this, which would increase our total credit hours by 1. We have just put in a change to accept both semesters, fall and spring, before they would be out a complete year if they failed a course before they came back. So we feel like we're going to have some catch up to do with that. So we want to add concept synthesis to that.
Any questions for Patty?
I move to approve the major curriculum change request from Highland Community College, LPN Program 2. Reduce NUR 126 Foundations Clinical from 2 credit hours to 1 credit hour. Add 1 credit hour to NUR 103 PN Success, making it a 2 credit hour class. Add a 1 credit hour concept synthesis course to the LPN program that would begin in spring 2026.
Thank you, Ruth.
Michelle Terry, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Abstentions. Motion carries. And your second request, Patty.
And the second request, sorry, somebody has to read this. So we want to increase our RN seats by 15 to our total of 30 right now, which would make us an annual total of 45. We have had a wait list currently of between 15 and 20 people every semester, every start. And it's gone up exponentially at this point. So we want to try to accommodate as many students as we can. But with that being said, we're also watching attrition that has happened before. So after doing some assessment, the faculty is asking that we reduce our mental health. So we have 2 classes where the clinical is actually a part of the class. It's very hard for transparency in what their clinical grade was and what their didactic. So the mental health course, we're reducing from 3 credit hours to a 2 credit hour didactic and adding the 1 credit hour clinical for a separate course. We're doing the same thing for the advanced med surg. We're reducing it from 6 credit hours to 4 credit hours didactic with that 2 credit hour clinical so that they actually know where the grade separation is. So that's for transparency. We also want to reduce our nursing advanced assessment from 4 credit hours to 3 credit hours. They were finding it hard to fill that much time when it's their nurses already. Nursing 220, which is our transitions class, we would like to raise that from 1 credit hour to 2 credit hours. We're seeing some role identity issues and we want to be sure that we're getting them all the information they can to be a successful RN. We do want to add a 3 credit hour advanced pharmacology course. It was being taught with advanced med surg. and they're just not getting enough of either one of those. So we want to add that 3 credit hour advanced pharmacology course. And we also would like to add a 1 credit hour concept synthesis course as well. We did have a practicum clinical, which was 4 credit hours or 180 hours of clinical. We would like to reduce that to 3 credit hours at 435 hours. Our total add would be a 3 credit hour to this after all of the switching, and that would be the advanced farm course.
So what are the total credit hours for the nursing part now? Do you remember? I was trying to,
I know,
was gonna look it up.
I believe it'll be 31. I didn't know there was a test.
No, sorry. I didn't mean to make it a test.
I did not study.
I know.
I know.
Any questions for Patty? There's a lot of information here, but it's well documented in the materials.
It's here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the major curriculum change request from Highland Community College LPN RN Bridge Program to increase RN seats by 15 and add a fall admission to the program to begin fall of 2026. Increase LPN RN curriculum by 3 credit hours by reducing NUR 235 mental health from 3 to 2 credit hours and create a separate 1 credit hour course for mental health clinical. Reduce NUR 230 advanced medical surgical from 6 to 4 credit hours and create a separate 2 credit hour clinical course. Reduce NUR 225 advanced assessment from 4 to 3 credit hours. Increase NUR 220 transitions class from 1 to 2 credit hours. Reduce NUR 215 practicum clinical from 4 to 3 credit hours. Add 3 credit hour advanced pharmacology course and add a 1 credit hour concept synthesis course.
Thank you, Michelle.
Second. Debbie, I say.
Debbie, okay, thank you, Debbie. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Abstention. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank
Patty.
you.
Okay, it's exciting to hear programs needing to grow because of wait lists. So it's very, very positive information. Okay, we have made it through, I believe, all the major curriculum change requests. And we will move on. We will skip B at this time, the LMHT until 10. We wanted to have a little discussion about the master's entry RN program. More informational. This isn't a request at this time. This is something being done in other states nationally, but we really haven't seen this request come to Kansas before. So Janelle's done a little background or is willing to do more background for us if we need more information.
Yeah, that's Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes,
We were approached by a school too, and that was, this is part of what was provided too. I've actually seen an increase in the number of master's entry programs for endorsements that are coming in, and even some initial licensure coming to Kansas. It's a little bit confusing at first to understand what the master's means, and primarily these are programs where you have somebody who already has a bachelor's degree. Usually it's in some kind of science or related social services field. And so another bachelor seems redundant, so they have made programs where they actually complete their BSN, complete their nursing program within a master's level course, and usually then there's some additional master's coursework there has to be for the master's degree to be. And some of them have additional, like you can get a master's that will allow you to sit for initial licensure, but you may also have an education piece or a leadership piece, or some are even creating moving on into advanced practice. That's a lot more hours, and they usually complete this portion first. And those are created to be able to get them the MSN at this level, and then they can move to the DNP without having to go back to get a second bachelor's for their nursing. So it's interesting. Not everybody does it the same, and we basically look at it by curriculum. So we just look to see that they have the basic BSN curriculum, and it's a master's degree, but it's still an initial licensure program. So we would treat it still more like an undergraduate program in terms of how we would approve or how we would look at graduates. So I think at one point we were saying, and I think it's in there, about the growth. Yeah, up from 70 school, there were 70 schools in 2020 and 2021, and it's up to 103 in 24-25, and I only see that growing as people, especially we're seeing some increase in second career for nursing, so this could be a really solid path. So I would expect at some point Kansas will see so that come into their purview here at some point.
It'd be helpful for faculty as well.
Yeah, so if there's any additional information as you look over that, glad to do that, but right now we don't have any requests. It's just kind of to get everybody thinking and trying to understand a little bit more about what that program is, so that if we do have something come forward, we have a little bit of background about what it is and that they are out there and that create some great nurses for our workforce.
That's a trend in other industries too. We see the trend in their education.
Yeah, I was a faculty in a program like this, in both the BSN and the MSN part of it. It was a 3-year, year-round program. It's very rigorous. And they had, in that state, the students had to graduate with the BSN. There was a clear point of a distinction. They don't go through any formal, but you finish your BSN and then you go ahead and do the MSN. And they're a different kind of a nurse. We had students all the way from a bachelor's degree to actually a PhD. I had 2 PhD graduates that had wanted to be nurses. Very academic, very strong. Most of the ones that I worked with went on and got their doctorates. And some of them did become faculty. So I was their instructor, but then they became my peer. There were probably 4 or 5 of them in that number of graduates that we had.
It's an interesting phenomenon, and just how it's accepted to people's understanding and facilities as they're looking to, and I don't know if I don't think it's, at this point, don't see it requiring any regulation change in terms of how we would approve that, but it was just something I felt like we wanted you to be aware of, so it didn't come as a surprise if it starts happening.
Interesting. We actually have 2 faculty that have done these programs. And the one thing that we found is because they don't have that much nursing experience. And so when you bring them on, they're well prepared for the education piece, but they're not as prepared for the clinical side, where typically we see that the other way, with the academic. And then some of the programs, we had someone that interviewed for a position, they don't take their board until they finish their master's at some places. And we couldn't interview her or offer her a job because she didn't have an RN license. It didn't matter what she was gonna do, she didn't have a license. So there are things you have to kind of watch with it, I think, too, depending on where they're coming from. Yeah.
Because some of them are very clear when they complete the, what we would consider the undergraduate level for, or the initial licensure level for nursing. And some of them even do a certificate, some don't, they just acknowledge the master's degree as, and they have it as their, it says master's direct entry nursing, or however something.
They
word it.
master's entry to nursing
There-
practice, MEN.
And I've seen it DE and something else, direct entry nursing program. So you have to just kind of look through and start looking at curriculum and what the transcript shows first. And if there's any question, I've gone to a couple schools just to ask for more clarity on the differentiation and actual hours. So other than that, it's been pretty simple. A change in thinking.
Yes. Now, their pass rates would be reflected on their first pass rate,
Yes.
correct? These
Yes.
students would be
These students
counted
are in with everybody else. It's still basically, it's an initial licensure and it's an entry point. So ADNs, BSNs, and now they're all at an initial licensure, and their basic nursing courses are all at the same level. Like you said, they get that, and then they get their master's, and a lot of them already have a bachelor's in some related field. I've seen a lot in psychology, or sciences. Any kind of those between those two as the primary ones,
Well,
but
I have a diploma in nursing, so my lowest degree is a master's. I did RN and master's, so my lowest
Right.
degree is a master's. So.
interesting. So all kinds of ways to make it happen, right? So, well, thank you for that. I just, and like I said, in the future, if there's anything that comes up, I think your point about the clinical piece, I hadn't really thought about that. To make sure that's as rigorous as possible, but thank you for allowing us to bring that forward.
Anything the committee would want, prior to us having the program bring it forward, anything we would like from Janelle for the December meeting? Thank you.
If you change your mind in the future, just let me know.
Okay. Next, we have the English language proficiency, which is on page 149, and I'll turn this over to Janelle again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The reason I brought this is there were a couple of inquiries to our board president, primarily from agencies that work with nurses that are coming internationally, and they're looking at English language proficiency. And so I'm bringing this forward primarily as a reminder and education to you all about where we stand with this and kind of what's out there, because that was kind of the directive, I think, and the board may want to hear more about this too, just to understand where we are. We get lots of requests. Everybody wants their English language proficiency, because there are probably 12 to 15 of them out there somewhere. In the past, up until probably 3 years ago, we only had one. We approved the TOEFL, we had the standard, and that had been several requests. So we did do some research. We had a company, the IELTS. It made sense. We researched other boards, and most boards have at least two. Some have a ton. I mean, it really ranges all over the place, but I think most want to do some due diligence on what the proficiency test is. And as a reminder, we just this year, March or June, I think it was March, approved OET, which is the occupational English test for use in Kansas as well. We had some paperwork to do, so we're just getting that to the website now, but we now have 3 options with standards set. And so on page 149 is what our current website looks like. I will be adding the OET now that we have all the paperwork. With OET looks a little different. The standards are actually A, B, C, D grades kind of thing. So you will see that reflected when we get that there. And on the page 150, what it provided was, this is something that, as we were working with OET, that they helped us find, that actually HRSA's done a lot of work when they're doing visas and other kinds of approvals for students coming into the US. They are also looking at English competency and language proficiency testing. So they have done all this looking at, so on the left are all the tests that they've looked at, and then they have given scores or benchmarks for occupational and physical therapy. They have one for RN level nurses and other healthcare workers, and then those that are below the BSN or the bachelor's level. There could be different, sometimes there's a difference, sometimes there isn't, but they've looked at it in these categories and they put these standards out there. So what this is for you all is information, where we stand, what our standards are, what we have said to these standards compared to what HRSA and their group has looked at to say, we feel like this is the proficiency level. I think for the most part, we're just pretty right on target with them. And in fact, the OET, we approved it with the HRSA standard, so it will look exactly the same as what they have for the OET exam. I think we've had a couple, I think it's Michigan English test, and actually the other one that's been pretty persistent is not even on HRSA's list. So that makes me feel a little like, okay, but I think the idea is that when we have people come to us and say, well, why don't you have us on our list, that we have chosen the 3 that we feel best represent. If people feel differently, that's why I'm bringing this. So this is kind of a look at, if you want me to start to bring any requests forward so that you can say yay or nay, we don't want to we will look at it, no, we don't want to look at it, I can do that. Or if there's anything just that you know of that you want me to go ahead and research, if you want me to research any of these others, or if you feel like, or no, we're not asking you right now to do anything, it's more informational. But if anybody has a strong feeling about it, if you've worked with nurses and know that there is something out there that's been a barrier, I haven't, lately I haven't. And we only had the one, like, we got a lot of pushback, but it feels like we have not, other than, like I said, agencies that want all their nurses, because they do one test and they want their test, but I will, and we're not the only state. There are several that only have 2 or 3 options at most. Some have, they'll review any of them and add them if they feel like it meets standard, but it just depends on how much time you want to spend on that too.
Was there a specific test we don't approve in Kansas that Andrea was asked about?
That's the one that's not on here. I was gonna remember to look at the form, and I can get that, but I marked on here the ones that I've heard from that in Michigan, and I do TOEFL, we do the internet-based TOEFL, which is a little different than the other one. We don't do the paper test. But I think on here, the only other one is the Michigan assessment or English test that we've been asked about. I can go back and look, and I think it was more, her question was, have we looked at this? Where, just to do due diligence to the question that was being asked, and I have already responded to the person that, and said that we do have 3 tests we accept. We haven't currently been asked to look at any more, that I would get in contact with them if any more information was needed. So at this point, that's where that is, but I can always reach back out if we want more information on. It's actually an out-of-state agency. If it were a Kansas agency looking to bring Kansas nurses in, I'd be a little more, I think maybe a little more intent on that. But we already work with a couple. There's a couple agencies, one out of Florida, one out of Texas, that we get a lot of requests from, but they already know what our standard is, and they don't come to us anymore and say, will you accept this one? Because we've already done this one. It's like, they already know which ones are most accepted. So again, informational, and if anything comes forward, and maybe just a direction, would you like to hear, if we get requests, would you like for them to come here with just a little idea of what it is, or?
I think it depends on how applicable it is to numbers of nurses.
Okay.
Most of us, and most people know that the TOEFL and the IELTS are the most common, and I'm not sure why, like in Michigan, the state has developed its.
Well, I can't even tell you why it's called the
seems
Michigan English test. but-
So limited compared to the field of options out there.
Well, and that's one of the reasons we brought the OET, I think the last time too. It's the first time we looked at one that was very specific occupationally, and
Right.
I think gave us some, another avenue
Agreed.
to kind of gear people toward. Because all the tests too have different costs associated with them. And I do know that was one of the things, TOEFL, I think, was maybe a little bit more than some of the other ones, but at this point, I don't have that information. I'm more concerned about what it's doing in terms of the language proficiency.
And we accept the online, they don't have to go to a
Right.
testing site,
Right.
and I know that's a barrier for some.
So anyway, that's why that's there, for you to do with, and, like I said, if something comes forward, I'm always glad to bring it. If it looks like something that, is, like you said, affects, if this is something that's a Kansas agency that's requesting us to look at it. Or an agency that does a lot with, we've also had, I think, facility requests, someplace that's working with an agency, it might not be in our state, but working with an agency to bring more nurses to their facilities here in Kansas. So we have tried to work with them on that. And steer them toward this if we can, so they know what the rigor needs to be.
Well, thank you for the information, and
Absolutely.
I would say if you could just track if you start getting more requests or the Kansas Hospital Association reaches out, then, and I can talk to Andrea
Yeah,
and
see
speak
if
to
there's
this
anything.
tomorrow with the board. If there's
Right.
a need, then we can bring it to December for
Absolutely.
additional approvals, but at this time, I think our three are working. Okay,
Thank you.
the 5-year legislative review, are we going to move that also for the LMHT to the discussion at 10, or do we want to discuss that now?
I'll say what I've said to you in the past. Right now, since we don't quite know what's going on with that, we've kept it there because that was a this year kind of thing. We also have a new, when we look at, the C, which is the 5-year combined statute and regulation review process. It's more about the process. Those are, I left those two because those are still the two that we have not reviewed that are kind of on our agenda to review. But because we've still been working with LMHT, we have just not done anything with them. And I guess I probably need to do some asking whether we're need to do an approve, if we're not sure of a decision, whether we just need to go ahead and look at them. And Carol, I don't know if this is a question I could ask, because I'm not sure. If we have to review it,
You could go ahead and review it as it is now to show that you did review it, knowing that you may change it, you know, in the near future.
so that's an option. Or another option is we still have December. If we see some decision today or have some direction, then we would at least know whether we want to bring back a proposal for an update. I think actually these may be the two that we have done some work on already on new drafts for this, but these are still, they're listed here with their still under the old, what's currently there.
How does the committee feel? Do we want to add these to the December agenda to review?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay, so we'll add those to December with plans to either update or review and approve.
And I guess a question might be too, depending on what we decide, we do have some drafted new language for these. If the request, it could be, we could bring both to show the work that's already been done in terms of some things we knew needed to happen, but we weren't sure what was gonna happen with the overall program, so it's, I can make sure we have both, if that's, yeah, sounds reasonable.
So A, under unfinished business, we're gonna hold it this time till 10, and we're only at 50 minutes, so I don't think we need a break yet if we wanna move forward with the Donley review. I believe Lauren. This starts on page 153. Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, and then I know there's a significant amount of material in the report here for us.
All right, very good. Well, I'm Lauren Fish. I'm the Director of Nursing at Donley College. This is my third time here, so I'm hoping third time's a charm. I'm with my friend and colleague, Laura Sampson. She has now a full-time faculty with Donley College, and she will be transitioning into the ADUN position once she graduates from her program, Master's in Nursing with an Education track in October. So we're very excited to have her. She has lots of good evidence-based practice nursing education things to share. And of course, we have Dean Ana Maradiaga, and you have seen her before as well.
Thank you. If you would like to discuss some of the highlights from your improvement plan.
Very well. I think one of the most important things that we have accomplished on our improvement plan was to increase faculty and increase faculty retention. Now, we did not, we retained 50% from the spring, but there wasn't a large pool to retain. So we have been able to hire 4 new full-time faculty, all at advanced practice level, who are doing the bulk of our didactic. In addition to that, we have hired 4 new full-time, I'm so sorry. We've hired 7 new clinical adjunct faculty, all who also are advanced practice level. They are ambitious, excited about sharing their journey in nursing education with our new students. We have completed the go live for our ATI complete package. We have the capstone in the concept synthesis, which is occurring now. And the students are saying, wow, this is hard. It's taking a lot of time. And of course, we are encouraging them to, take the time to realize the importance of this. We will also have the NCLEX Live at the end of the semester. It's already been scheduled and it is going to be mandatory. We will not release transcripts until they take the NCLEX Live. Other highlights include the fact that we have gone through our program and evaluated program review and analysis, and we did discover that we were not testing at an adequate increased level of cognitive ability. So we are utilizing test bank and ATI to pull questions that we know that are new gen and NCLEX style questions that will further prepare our students for the actual NCLEX. Our students are working hard, and we're hearing from them that they are working hard, but we also are reinforcing the fact that our desire is for them to achieve.
Any questions from the committee? I know there's a lot of material that we've reviewed prior to.
Absolutely.
I have a question. I'm not entirely clear on your current PN program and RN program pass rates. I know in here you say that they increased. Do you have that?
Yes.
You know, you have.
That's one of my
quarter.
questions.
I do have, we pulled a recent report. You would have received the second quarter report. And remember, this isn't a complete report for the year, but I believe that the PN was at
61.9.
is now at 61.9. It was at 68. At the end of second quarter, it was at 68 or 72. So, and then also the RN has gone from 68 to 64. So we really haven't seen improvement at this point. It continues to be a little bit of a struggle there, but we do have.
What's your current enrollment in both programs?
I don't have that accurate exact data with you.
So on an approximate, the RN has about 15 students, and then we have 2 PN cohorts, and each PN cohort has less than 25 students.
Each of them has less than 25, so you have less than 50.
No,
for
the PN, yes.
For the PN.
Mhm.
Just in your program reviews, for the PN, you on page 175, I'm not sure if, or wait a minute, is that, that's the RN, sorry. PN review. RN is on 175, and then I believe it's
Okay, I
also,
see that, thank you.
no, page number. I thought it was in both.
May I ask a question while you're looking?
Yes.
Yes.
This is Karen. You say you're using the HI complete package. Are you using the virtual ATI as well so that your students have to achieve a green light before you release them for testing?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see it in your PN.
Page 181.
I know it starts there, I'm just
That's
not
the
seeing the
spring.
numbers.
Yeah, I'm looking for it as well. Page 203. Yeah, 203, yes. It shows that in 2024, the PN pass rate was 72.73.
Right, I was actually just looking for the second quarter one that we,
Okay.
or the one we would have had, I guess we would have had a first quarter report at the June meeting. We wouldn't have had the second quarter out yet, so this is the first quarter report, we're like 72 and 68%, and now we're at 68 and 61. I had numbers, we were looking at schedules. I remember 18, 22, 14, and 17. And they had both day and evening cohorts, so there's 2 cohorts of 25, but there weren't quite, and that was another thing too, the numbers went up.
Oh, yes, and
If
so
you could
that
please
was
explain.
because we readmitted students that had to sit out due to, they had failed a class and by policy, they had to sit out for a certain amount of time. So we did allow those students back in at the place that they were to re-enter. We did not admit any new students.
But still kind of admitting new students.
There is a silver seat.
Well, the approved seats are 25 for each group. They didn't go over 25. Well, I'm sorry, that's 50. It's 25 per day, 25 for evening. You guys need to holler out, say that wrong. Admissions, yeah, are 50 per cohort. So that's 25 day, 25.
Yes,
evening,
yes, that's
right?
correct. Yeah.
So those
That is
numbers
correct,
were
thank
all
you.
below 25 because they would have had a cohort that started in the fall and then a cohort that started in the spring.
How many readmissions did you have?
I believe there were 3.
And then to clarify, we do have like 2 sets of PNs. So we do have, so when you were asking about the total students. So there's like, yeah, there's ones that are finishing this fall and another group of PNs that are finishing next spring. So, and so we have 2 meetings and 2 takeovers.
Right.
When did you start your ATI?
We started it in the fall, just
This
now.
semester?
Just this semester, yes.
I had a couple of questions and it may be in here, you may have to just help direct me. One recommendation we talked about was hiring a consultant to help. Have you guys moved forward with that plan?
We have not hired a consultant. In lieu of that, I've hired a significant number of faculty that I feel like many of them have nursing education experience. And then also bringing an ADON on is a way of providing that consulting for me at this point.
They've all taught in nursing programs prior?
They all have, yes, ma'am, in some aspect or another.
I have a question,
Yes.
but do they have any experience in leading a program? Because that was my understanding of the recommendation. It wasn't just for faculty and more faculty and with experience, but getting help with the actual leadership of the program because of the number of concerns the board had.
Yes, I understand. I really didn't understand that to be a mandate. I understand that it was a recommendation. We have not been able to move that forward with that at this point. Obviously, that's going to be a cost-effective thing. However, I do have some people that I've been
thinking about in terms of bringing people on board who are high-level executives that can help us with the leadership component.
Do you have a mentor?
Mentor. I do.
Two were assigned and back when he started, and I did forward those. They were also there for the previous two. And I got confirmation when we started that they were willing to do that. So we do have a PM level and an ADM level that have been available as well.
They're Kathy.
Yes.
So there's been some growth of faculty.
Yes.
And we all know it takes a long time to orientate new faculty, even with teaching experience. But in a new facility, new policies, do you have a formal orientation program for those faculty?
Yes, we did. We actually conducted a college-wide orientation for them. The Friday before school started, we went over our learning management system, and we also went over our grading and attendance system, along with any policies and procedures that needed to be reiterated. They also had a chance to do team building. We did a Myers-Briggs breakout session, which was very informative and helpful. And then that was an all-day program. And then at 3 p.m., we had nursing had a breakout session, and we reviewed all of the policies and procedures, expectations, faculty handbook, student handbook, issues that we're dealing with, and so on and so forth. Then about a week afterwards, one of our experienced nurse educators who's been with Donnelly in the past actually did a training on ExamSoft to make sure that we were adequately creating tests that will, again, increase that cognitive demand of the students.
Do you have a remediation policy for your students that may or may not be very successful?
The remediation that we're using right now is based on the ATI remediation process. Basically, as they do the testing, the concept mastery, the ATI is responding. In the capstone, we have a live educator who is responding with, this is what you need to work on, this is what you need to work on, this is what you need to work on. Further remediation programs are in the planning stage at this point. The priority, of course, was at this point to get ATI on board, to get all our faculty trained on ATI as well, which is another thing that we had several webinars and so on and so forth. And so getting them trained, getting the students trained, getting, everything aligned properly. So that has not come into fruition yet. We do have, though, with the addition of Laura, we are doing a QAPI. So we do have one of our, we're developing PIPs as we go for those issues that we identify, such as the need for remediation. Right now, we're seeing in testing as our standards are being, the message and the standards of attendance and grades and testing are across the board with our faculty. We are finding a normal bell curve on our grades. So we recognize that there is going to be, some attrition based on just that normal bell curve in terms of that. So, but we have to stay true to that in order to present students that are adequately prepared for the NCLEX.
So are students understanding, like, say they failed an exam, are they understanding what they're missing? So before they move forward?
That's a very good question. Thank you. Yes, the faculty are reviewing the test. They're reviewing what they've done wrong. I sat in on one of our MS4 class the other day, and it was post-test, and the instructor reviewed all of the ABGs, tested them again, basically verbally, made them think about why they got wrong what they did. So.
Do they do individual one-on-one?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All faculty have office hours available
and also are available to meet with a student remotely as well if
And the
needed.
students are taking advantage of this?
I think they are. I think they are. From the feedback I'm getting, I know Laura, you've had students actively seek you out.
They do.
Yes.
So is remediation required if they score a certain percent on their exam, or is it just optional for students who wish to participate in remediation? Is that a written policy in your handbook or in your courses?
I think it needs to be.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, it is not, but
Okay.
it's very important thing that we
Yeah.
need to look forward to. Yes,
Yes, and do you have a policy on the virtual ATI and the green light?
we do.
Okay, was it included?
We did not. I'm
Okay.
sorry. It's actually in the handbook, the faculty handbook, it's the ATI policy, so.
But
The student as well, yes, the
Is it in
students as
there?
well. Yes, it will
Okay.
be the new one, yes.
Is, with the amount of faculty turnover and all the new implementation, and I know you're in, what, 4th week of classes, that is a lot of material for faculty to thoroughly be orientated. I know what it takes just to learn ATI, and these are a lot of new faculty. I'm gonna ask, and not to put you on the spot,
Yeah,
Laura,
it's okay.
but do you feel like you're being adequately supported as are you still interim director? To have a mentor, to get a consultant if you needed, to attend training?
Yes, I really do. I really feel like everything's available. It's for me, it's more about, getting, it's prioritizing. And yes, and at some point, when this is done, then I can further develop my own. Yes,
How many credit hours are you teaching this fall?
I am, actually, I'm covering for clinicals at this point. It's a short-term situation as we are onboarding clinical adjuncts. It takes a little bit, as you know.
Oh, yes.
They will be, actually, I will be orienting 2 of them to the clinicals that I am covering now. So I'm hoping that by 2 weeks that will be done and I will not have any load at all as far as teaching.
So how are your new faculty being mentored?
Good question. We are fortunate to have both Tara Ortiz, who has been full-time with us for over a year. And she is well-versed in ATI, she's well-versed in ExamSoft. She has been the mentor for Dr. Orr and has been that person for that faculty to go to. In addition, one of our other new faculty, Christine, we've had Megan Kelly, who has been with us at Donnelly before, and she has oriented, and she's been a mentor directly for her. That was a really important factor. And then Laura takes advantage of those as well as me. So she's, I'm hoping, being mentored as we go, yes.
I have a couple of questions. You hired 7 new clinical faculty. I have 2 questions about clinicals.
Yes.
Are your clinicals currently covered? Because with 7 new ones and you're doing clinicals, how many days a week are you doing clinicals? How many hours? And when will that let up for you? And then are your clinicals covered?
So what we have done is because we knew that there was going to be a little delay in having all the clinical sites covered, those of us that were able have stepped up to make sure that we were getting them on the sites in a timely manner. Laura is covering RN clinical and Providence, and I am covering MedSurg for clinical at Truman. And then we've had other full-time faculty that have stepped up to the plate for the short term. However, in order to allow us to onboard anything that isn't being covered at the clinical site, what we're doing is we're doing SIM. We have SIM on Tuesdays and then every weekend. And so doing that to make sure, and that has been a positive thing for our students because doing SIM reinforces those skills and does provide some of that remediation that they've been wanting.
How many hours on the weekend?
There's 24 hours, two back to back, Saturday and Sunday.
Who's covering that? And are you covering that as well?
I'm covering one of those on the weekends, yes.
And what classes are those for?
The weekends are for the PN2 class.
Okay.
Yes.
And are any of your current students short clinical hours going forward into this term that's now halfway?
Yeah, ma'am.
So all the clinicals have been caught up.
They are on track with the
Okay.
clinical hours. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Another question I had, you mentioned that you did a training on exam soft
Yes, ma'am.
for your faculty. And I know how much it takes to be able to ensure integrity of an exam, that it's at the correct level of Bloom's taxonomy going forward. I'm just wondering, have your faculty got so many new ones? I don't know how many years of experience each of them has. Are your faculty trained in Bloom's taxonomy?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any KR reliability within anything you're doing? Like, are they writing their own exam questions?
That's a very good question. And so, yes, I'm very familiar with Bloom's taxonomy. We did review that extensively, as well as the results of our program analysis, which did indicate we were not testing at a high enough level. And so our faculty are taking a lot of time in developing good, solid exams. And they are utilizing the ATI test bank to pull some of those questions out. And they are reviewing those tests. And we're reviewing the results as a group of faculty, and we're looking at the results and saying, okay, is there anything on this test that wasn't valid or that we need to look at? And are we getting the normal bell-shaped response curve? So, yeah.
But you've only had ATI for 4 weeks, correct? Am I understanding
At the
it?
beginning of the semester, yes.
Of this semester?
Yes, so they've been able to pull the exam, some exam questions from ATI test pools.
But you
That's
don't
right.
know yet the student outcomes with the ATI it sounds like we're relying on ATI a lot, but you don't have outcomes yet because it's just not far enough along with its use.
Yeah, we do put a lot of confidence in ATI, I would say, and that was one of the board's recommendation that we return to ATI. We also are going to, when we do get to readmit again, we are going to be doing the Ts, because we have found that probably students weren't adequately prepared for the rigors of the nursing program. I'm sorry, what was the rest of your question?
Well,
kind of lost.
I'm sitting here processing that,
Yes,
you know, you've made some strides in some
Yes.
areas, but we don't have outcomes.
Right.
Because it's just not far enough along.
exactly.
And using the ATI test bank is one thing, but will you use the ATI standardized test at the end of each course then?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so those outcomes you wouldn't have yet.
No, we
Because
do
those
not.
would be
That's a
given at
good
the end of
question.
this
Thank you. Yes, very good
That's actually
question.
why I'm a little hesitant to.
Yeah, it's just we don't have outcomes.
I feel like you guys are heading in a direction that I'm a little hesitant to say absolutely we need new students until the new faculty are more mentored and we have more outcome data. Does that make sense?
I agree with that. I think that the numbers that we're seeing have decreased rather than increased. So I think we need to see some outcomes of what you're doing.
Can I just add that, from my understanding is Donnelly had used ATI in the past, and when they used it in the past, their students were more successful. Is that correct?
That is not true.
Okay.
I
That's
mean, they
just
had
what
used it in
I,
the past. Rates were going down, changes were made. And the rates were actually starting to come up. So I don't know that ATI was a factor.
and this is another
just
thing, just another thing to add, I'm very big on quality assurance, project improvements. And that is something that they haven't formally really had here at Donnelly. And so I think that putting that into place and actually having these meetings and identifying where the problems lie and implementing, what am I trying to say? implementing plans for improvement. And not only that, but including, I mean, a good poppy program is gonna include even the students, like even, you know, pulling a couple students into those individual project improvement plans, so we can get that input from them to just make the program better and more successful and make the students feel better about the education that they're getting. But I just want to put that out there that I think that we're at a place now where we do have some experienced educators that have a desire to see Donnelly succeed. And I think Quabi is one of the biggest things that are gonna help us get there.
I think it is a good plan moving forward. It's just gonna take time to see
Right.
that change happen.
Yes.
This is something from the beginning, but we do need, or at least I need to bring up and discuss, is the complaint log. Going back and looking at it, I just, from October 7th of 24, when you look at the total numbers, we had 19 student complaints, student and or family complaints. And 16 were specifically to Donnelly, which is, in my opinion, an inordinate amount for one school compared to only one for 3 other schools.
I'm
And
sorry, can I clarify the date on that? You said October 24th?
October of 2024.
2024, okay, yes,
Yes.
yes, ma'am.
And when I review those, you know, that came to us as a board through Janelle. So, and can I ask Janelle, have you received any since you made that report for us?
Just one, and it was actually a complaint from a student related to one that we'd already received, so that it wasn't new, it was just an additional person concerned about. I mean, I tried to categorize a little bit to kind of help, and I did send, after the last one, I think I got a couple days after everything was submitted.
Yeah.
And so at that point too is when I did send something to Donnelly, to Lauren, asking for some feedback. She did give that to me last Thursday with everything else. I've looked over it, but have not had a chance to review and respond to see if there are other things we still need to follow up on. I'm not hearing from the students that they feel a resolution yet, but some of it is I think some of it is just, they're waiting to see. They're waiting for some response. Some of them have already, a couple of them have already gotten response, and you did respond to that. Others are just still questioning. I think they're just still struggling with what the policies are, all the changes that are happening and hiring. There wasn't more new faculty. It's just been a lot of change for them. For those that started last fall, they've seen basically three sets of faculty. And you've gotten sounds like a new onboarding process started, but even with your great faculty that you've just hired too, some of them were hired right when you started. So there still is some onboarding time for them, even with experience, it's a new program for them. So the students that have been part of it for a while too are just, I think they're feeling the fatigue of that, is what I sense. In a lot of that, but I will review the responses and have that for the next update, but I did want you to know I hadn't received the response, and we'll be reviewing that. I don't know if there's any question.
That was just my question, and I don't know if there were any other comments about the complaint log. Yeah,
Yeah.
just, that's very concerning when you look at the other numbers
Yes,
for
yes.
one program to have that many.
And if I may respond to that.
Yes.
So that is one of our quality improvement initiatives. We recognize that we didn't have a clear process in place for the students to say, that's who I go to first. Okay, so they were going one place and they were verbally saying something, going someplace else, verbally sharing that.
we had to have a way to collect that data and say, okay, we need this, you have a complaint. It's not a grievance, it's not a formal grievance, it's a complaint or concern. So here is the form that you fill out and you submit this to our administrative assistant, and then she will schedule an appointment with me, a one-on-one with me. Obviously, any complaint, we want, if it's related to faculty or grades, we would want the students to try to address that with the faculty first. But if that's not resolved at that level, then they can move forward with me. And if it's not resolved at my level after DON and leadership, then that is the point that they can pursue an a student grievance with the college. So that has definitely been an issue with the students. I also concur with Janelle that there's a lot, because of the new things, the new changes, change can be stressful. And so they are feeling the insecurity of, are we going to come through with what we promised we are going to come through with? And that's what we're addressing right now. If I might say one more thing, I know I understand your hesitance with the data, with the lack of data. My biggest concern is that because we have worked so hard to develop a strong faculty, that by not allowing us to admit at least a cohort in the fall and in December, we will lose those faculty. We will not be able to retain, and therefore the program will not be able to continue. We will be able to get the rest of the students completed with whatever, but our faculty are full-time. They've invested a lot. They've invested not only in their time and their commitment, but also they have a lot of faith in that this organization has a purpose. Our students have not been adequately prepared. We see that. I really believe we have the faculty and the support from the college. And as I move forward and grow in my position, I will have a better understanding of what we need to do. I really feel like we need a chance to make this happen.
Thank you for sharing that. And I know you have dedicated a lot of time and effort to this. Just to clarify for myself, when you say about student complaints and that process, do you have students who sit on your committees to represent the different levels of your program and bring ideas to your faculty?
That is part of our process that we're developing now. So by the next meeting that we will have students in place. We also have a student that is on, the nursing student who is on the student senate for the college as well. But we want to include them in our nursing faculty meeting, nursing meetings as well. Absolutely. Very important.
So when I look back to March, unless are there any other questions for Lauren? When I look back to March and what we recommended at that time was you were put on conditional approval for both programs, cease admission, focus on currently admitted programs until stable for at least 6 months with a site visit to be done prior to restarting admissions. And I know stable is somewhat of a subjective term, but I don't know that I see stability yet. I think you're in process to get there, but we don't have outcomes to show that at this time. It's gonna take time. I mean, a curriculum doesn't change overnight and there's multiple semesters and then testing results. So it's gonna take time. I think you are moving in that direction based on what you've submitted and told us today. But we obviously require a site visit prior to you starting some admissions. Now you said December is when you would start the next cohort?
January.
Oh, January, okay. So I know looking at the site visit schedule is quite tight for this fall, but I think we need to look at a site visit. There is short time, but I mean, I believe if we could get a site visit done for this fall, bring back information to the December meeting, I know that is a short time period for you to then do admissions possibly if we approve for January. But possibly I looked, there's like 1 week in October, the 13th and 14th of October. and 15th, okay, 13th, 14th, and 15th, which is a month away. But if you're open to hosting a site visit and we have members who are available to go with Janelle.
Is that the only weekend?
Is that the only week? The only other week is in November. And my concern is that they finish before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And
Not nursing. Nursing finishes a week after.
But they'll be in finals.
But there will be a
So
final.
it is, yeah, it's not, yeah.
Nursing is in 16 weeks. Since the last visit and the recommendations per KSBN, that the time wasn't enough and the faculty, the feedback from the faculty was that this is not working for nursing. I mean, we hear those concerns and we said, if that's what you need, the academic calendar for nursing is allow them to go back into 1 week. We even changed the rest of the college also. It was like 14 and a half and we went back to the full 15.
I need to get back to the schedule, but I believe there was also, I think it's the second week of November, that was.
So it's the 14th and 15th or the second week in November?
The 13th, 14th, and 15th, so it'd be 3 days
3 days.
in October.
Right.
Is anybody that's available to go with Janelle?
Okay,
Debbie, you are.
site visit.
I think I would be available. I would be available on those days, 13th, 14th, and 15th. I would.
So we would have a team that could go with Janelle. Are there specific things that you would want them to have in place to review? I think the recommendations from March all need to be addressed very thoroughly.
Okay.
Things I would want to see is your ATI plan, both the student handbook plan and your faculty handbook plan. You know, what level must they achieve on the standardized test? How many retakes are they allowed? Your virtual ATI plan as far as when they're going to get, you know, when they're going to be allowed to graduate and have their transcripts for NCLEX.
Right.
A remediation plan, a formal remediation plan for, you know, tests and or exams in each course.
Okay.
And that it's implemented, which if it's
Right.
not in your current handbook, that's a little hard to implement by October.
Gotcha.
But I think those are all things that came out of your previous recommendations. A mentor for you.
Okay.
We can't mandate that you have a mentor, but I think it would be very, very beneficial. And I know a consultant is a cost, but I think anything that could help with that would be beneficial for you.
Okay. Very good.
We've seen, and you can look back historically, is this year 5 I've been on education? Other programs that have struggled, that we've made these recommendations and they've taken them to heart and they have improved. So there's a reason we made those recommendations. So we want to support you and that's why we made these encouragements, but you know, we need to see that you're taking advantage of those recommendations.
I would like to see your exam analysis.
Okay.
And look at also your curriculum delivery. Look at your multimodality approaches. I'd like a closer look at faculty depth, education experience in any of their CNEs, any of their educational trainings.
And your yes, the mentoring and orientation, is this ongoing for your new faculty? Is it something campus-wide Donley does versus also what they're doing directly with you and this assistant director? Because it's gonna take some time.
Yes,
And have you submitted FQRs on all of the new faculty?
All but one, we're waiting on a transcript, and it's in the works, yes, but I believe all the rest of them are completed.
Also, I'd like to look at your clinical schedule.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to see from this beginning of this semester until that point.
Right.
How you've been covering clinicals, like day by day.
Gotcha.
Course by course.
Yes.
And we can work with Janelle and then she can get information to you to schedule, but obviously student visits will be important so that we get to talk with students in each level of your two programs.
And faculty.
And yes, faculty time.
As many of the faculty as we can get at one time. And if we have to do 2 different meetings, then
then we'll do that.
And I do want to say, you know, of course, when there's a lot of change, students are going to feel a high degree of anxiety. Being in nursing school is very high anxiety as it is. So it's understandable that students would be unsettled. But I would just like to see that there's, maybe that they've been managing their anxiety better than this many complaints.
So at this time, you cannot advertise that you're going to have admissions for January, just to be clear. It would not happen until after our, I believe it's December 9th, or somewhere around there is our next board meeting.
Okay.
And so that would be a quick turnover with a holiday. I don't know what weeks Donley's closed, but
We'll make it work.
okay,
Yes, thank you.
we'll move forward. Any other recommendations or questions? Because I know our guest is on that's starting at 10, but if we can close out this, unless we want to talk about it after Scott. Or we good?
I'm okay.
Okay, so we'll plan October 13th, 14th, 15th. Janelle, Debbie, and Ruth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, there you are.
Okay, so could we take like a 7 to 8 minute break? I know Scott's on, so is that a problem for Scott? He's giving a thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, so it's.
That might be fine.
10:05, so we'll say like 10, 12 to 15, as quickly as we can go back.
Start back up.
We are resuming the meeting. Scott, thank you so much for giving us a little break. If you would like to introduce yourselves.
Sure. My name is Scott Bruner. I'm the Deputy Secretary at KDADS for hospitals and facilities. I work with the 4 state hospitals at Larned, Osawatomie, here in Topeka and in Parsons. And part of what we're working on is some workforce related initiatives for those campuses, but also for an additional state psychiatric hospital that we're in the process of building in Wichita. So we've talked to the board a couple of times about nursing pipeline in general. We had a conversation with Carol about the LMHT program as well. And I think that's what we were asked to come and participate today in that discussion. I'm here with Melinda Gall. Let her introduce herself. She's been leading some of our workforce efforts as well.
Yes, I'm Melinda Gall. I am the Assistant State Hospital Commissioner here at KDADS and have been working with a few of the workforce development groups and following some of the conversation that's been going on about pipeline and also for us contract staffing.
Great. So we just wanted to discuss with you, we've had an LMHT task force, which Ruth was chairing that task force for us. We've had a lot of discussion about LMHT, and we just wanted to see moving forward where we were going to go with this, what changes we may want to consider, or if we want to continue as we currently are doing it. Did you have?
I do. Hi, this is Ruth, and our task force was comprised of I would say a fairly representative sample of both practice nurses in the psychiatric field, as well as those that are in nursing education. We had representatives from our current programs that offer the LMHT. The evidence that was presented, that was gathered and presented at our 2 task force meetings, the outcome was that we should probably move ahead with a proposal for both a certificate as well as possibly continue a license. So the certificate, the justification for that is that so many of the hospitals across the state that offer psychiatric inpatient services are doing their own training. Our program requirements are very high in number of clinical hours and didactic. It takes a while to finish that. It does cost money. And with the turnover that is going on in inpatient psychiatric units, these are the factors involved in psychiatric hospitals managing their own psychiatric tech training. So our question to you is, if there is a certificate option in addition to the license, is that something that KDADS could manage?
Manage the certificate process?
Yes.
Well, I'm used to unexpected questions. That wasn't what I was anticipating at all. So we, I'm not gonna say no out of the gate. So KDADS, the other part of my job beyond working with state hospitals is I oversee our health occupations credentialing and survey group. So we do run the CNA program under federal authority for the state of Kansas. So we do have that experience in, it's really more implementing a national training platform and deploying it across the state, and then registering CNAs, keeping track of licenses, those kinds of things. So we do that in the CNA setting. So it wouldn't be, this would be a little bit of a deviation from that, but not impossible. I do think we would definitely need some guidance on what, again, following the CNA model, there's a nursing education part or nursing skills component to that we want to make sure we're echoing or being respectful of for the board. The clinical parts, we'd have to get some expertise on that side, which wouldn't be impossible, but just something else we'd have to think about. I think it's certainly a possibility. Probably be good to have that conversation with the BSRB as well, just to, make sure they're informed and see where they would go with it. But so it's a qualified yes, or qualified, we're open to the concept if that's where we need to go. Honestly, now I'm shooting not totally from the hip, but a little bit. So in other conversations we've had with other technical schools and community colleges, like WSU Tech, they're really interested in a behavioral health tech kind of certificate program or credential that they've been trying to figure out what that credential might look like. And we said, well, referring to CNA, there's that national model that we could follow if we could find something similar. That's not so much nursing though, it's more direct care, in a behavioral health setting. So that we probably would want to make sure we don't take up too much of the ground that they're looking to explore as well. So it's a qualified yes, that with the qualification B, we'd be open to the concept of being a partner there, but we don't have the capacity to do it today. We'd have to figure out what that would look like and what it would take to build it out.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. WSU Tech was part of our task force.
Great.
And yeah.
So we started with the hard questions,
Yes.
Scott. So
Yeah, okay, well, thanks for your time. We'll
let's maybe back up. If you want to tell us a little bit about LMHT staffing at the state hospitals, oversight, explain
Sure.
your role from KDADS. So we'll kind of step backwards from the hard question.
Sure.
Just one more thing. This is Janelle from our conversation too, as you're talking about that too, as you've discussed with your state hospitals and especially the new one coming, what their expectations might be for staffing and if LMHTs have been in that conversation.
Sure. No, thanks for that one. So, so the LMHT program, we have a commitment on the two existing campuses in Wichita to think about growing our own professionals. So starting with our kind of frontline entry-level position as a mental health disability tech, that we do the training ourselves, hire people into those jobs with either no or little direct care healthcare experience. We train them to do that. For those that then want to advance their skill, either maybe to go on a nursing path or psychology or maybe social work, we want to figure out how we can find those paths to both be more attractive as a recruiting platform for entry-level folks, but then also that they have a path that in the state hospital system, they could stay and advance their skills. And LMHT is certainly one of those paths that we've had lots of experience with over time. And again, working with the board to get that as a licensure type, I think was important. Where we've maybe just kind of jumping to the end of that story a little bit, we were committed to the concept of building our own, but our staffing has been so not restricted, but just limited in how many vacancies we have. It was really hard to pull people off the floor to go through the classroom side of the training. Having them work on the floor for their practical experience was very helpful. But again, I don't know how balanced it was because we just kind of needed people to cover wherever they were. Some of our nurses that were doing the training part of it, they would get pulled off to work more shifts and cover. And so it was adding more things on in a really compressed workforce environment. So in a perfect world, if we had dedicated trainers, dedicated time for people to train and be off the floor, I think we would certainly run more people through the LMHT program. Just that hasn't been our experience over the last, a little bit before COVID, but certainly through the COVID period as well. So we've tried to kind of hybridize the model as much as we could. We used the training teams at Larned to teach LMHT students at Osawatomie and vice versa, with kind of mixed success. We do have, I don't remember what our exact count is, but there's maybe 25. Well, I think the last time we talked to the board, there's 32 licensees. We've probably got, most of those are on State Hospital campus now. And they provide a really important coverage role. And I think some of those LMHTs are also in training to get their LPN or RN, so it is fulfilling that purpose. The couple of limitations that we've seen, again, is the time it takes to have training, like you've already talked about, for that to be on campus and in a practical environment where you're covering shifts and trying to fill holes in the schedule. That's been a challenge. The second is the number of hours that it takes to get the LMHT. We think that is it's a lot, and it's when the students aren't getting college credit for it, we're certainly paying them. I mean, they're working while they're getting that training, but they're not getting college credit. How that transfers and can they carry that credential on with them anywhere else? I think that's another limitation. So one of the things that we had thought about with the Wichita building is because of the proximity of Wichita State, WSU Tech, the KU School of Medicine, Biosciences campus, Newman, Friends. I mean, there are a lot of teaching programs in the area that maybe that's a place where we could not offload, that sounds wrong. We had the academic part taught off campus, and then the practical experience happens in the hospital building. And maybe so just that would be a little more efficient. A larger pool of people to draw from as well compared to Larned or Osawatomie would also be something that we want to think about. As we're working on the staffing model for that Wichita hospital, we are building some LMHT positions into the mix. Because they do serve an important role in our model for medication passing and administration, medication oversight. I mean, some of the kind of nursing tasks that our MHDDs can't do on their own. So we do think there's a role, we've got to figure out how to get the training model to work. Maybe the other third thing of how the model's limited on our campus, as we've been very, I think, successful with the cooperation of the governor and the legislature of increasing our base pay for those entry-level positions. There's not a lot of space between our entry-level MHDD position and the LMHT salary. We haven't moved them at the same rate because of some legislative direction. So I think part of the incentive was when there were more steps along the way of you start as an MHDD at $18 an hour, you're in the job for a while, you realize you want to advance into a nursing career. LMHT at $20, $21 an hour was the next logical step, and then LPN or RN's a little higher than that. Now we've flattened that so much that there's not much space, so I don't know that people are as incentivized to take on the LMHT. That's something we need to address more than the board, but it is something that's real on the campuses. So I think we'll look at that as well. If LMHT is still around, if there's more students in the pipeline, I know WSU Tech has their request for a program, that as we've talked to the folks at WSU Tech who are just been really tremendous to work with, one thing they really emphasize is you've got to they can do the training, but students have to see the progression, have to know what the job is that they're getting with that training and what the wage rates are. So again, I think we need to close part of that discussion as well as if their program continues or grows, there's a place for those students to work. And maybe the last comment just about the program in general, how it's designed. We use LMHTs on the campus in several of the medication passing roles that it's important to do. We pass a lot of medications to a lot of patients, so that's an important role to have. So I think the pharmacology part of the training curriculum is important to us, given what that role is and how we use them. I know if the LMHT, if that licensure type was going to be available to maybe more outpatient settings or community-based providers, the pharmacology part of it may not be so important. Maybe there's something that's more, running group sessions or individual therapy or documentation would be more important. But for us, that medication passing knowledge of the medications that we use, the pharmacology impacts, that's really important to the work that happens on our campuses. So I think that's just something to consider as you're looking at curriculum changes of where that would. Right now, there's so many hours in the academic track that pharmacology can fit. If you're going to compress those number of hours or shorten them and have to leave something out, just something we'd want to weigh in that's important to our operations is to have that pharmacology academic experience and then the clinical exposure to it as well. I don't know if I covered all the points that you wanted there, but that's sort of so we definitely have a place for LMHTs on our campuses. We do need to figure out the training path and kind of, I think the wage question is another one that we need to address, but we certainly do have a role currently and in the future.
I just want to say thank you, Scott, and apologies for putting you on the spot. I could have approached that a little differently. I am a longtime psychiatric nurse and also a mental health therapist, and I've held quite a few administrative positions and been involved legislatively in another state on behalf of these sorts of issues. I've developed MHT trainings. So that is why I was chosen to head up the task force. But we had some really good feedback from our members of the task force. I see Deshaun, hello. And it was just such a well-rounded group that I felt like we did hear from that. Then the part that needed to be addressed was if we do go to something other than the LMHT license, is there another different level that might standardize training for those places that are doing their own? And that was our concern, was really the quality of the training that was being offered at all the different psychiatric inpatient facilities across the state.
Sure.
But thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Did you have Deshaun, welcome. One of the, we just pulled her over as well because WSU Tech right now is the only, and WSU are the only two schools that currently have folks in the pipeline for an LMHT license, which we currently still have, and that they started under that. So Scott, just so you all are aware too, and we may have talked about this, as we have been looking at this, and the idea is this a license or is it a certification? I think some of those questions we thought we had answered. We wanted your input. This is really good to ask further questions. So I think what's happened in the meantime is we were talking a lot about that right at the time that these two programs kind of stepped up. Osawatomie had decided, you know, with all that was going on there, that their program, they have closed that, at least, you know, for now, because of all the things you just said. And so where we were trying to go as a task force is to get some idea, is there a place for that licensed mental health tech? But at 900 hours for the program, you're right, it got to look like this is maybe more than what everybody bargained for. And I think another thing that what you were just talking about there, and that maybe Deshaun or Debbie, I don't want to put you on the spot either, but as folks with a program, addressing what are the essential elements of a program if we do keep it, if that licensure is important, if there is a level for it, then what's the expectation? Because we also know if we keep it, we have an exam that has been given by the
Right.
board previously, but is in serious need of updating, as well as the question, as we look at the two other states that do have LMHT programs, the programs themselves that offered the degrees or the certifications for what they were doing are the ones that gave the final exams, and they were the ones that told the board, yes, they've passed their exams, they're eligible for licensure. So the whole testing question about how we're currently doing, I don't think we can maintain it as it is, because it needs to be updated, but we don't have the folks that we've had in the past who are familiar with all of what went into that test plan and into the questions that built that. So there are things that if it stays licensure, that are gonna have to be figured out, and I think that's where a lot of the questions are too. We were asking the questions, would we be better off at a certificate level? But then the concern became, but who does that? Because we aren't authorized to do, I mean, ours is the licensing, statute. So is there another way to do that helps it move it? And we still have the licensure, but so I'm just putting it out there. There are other things that have been done in other states. I don't think that our statute and regs, the way they currently exist, would preclude us from doing something different. It says a board approved exam. So if the approval has to be from the board about what's being done in the school, but the schools are giving the same final, but they're responsible for, that's a different way of testing than what we're currently doing. So those are other questions. But I think we really wanted to, and Ruth, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last question to task force was, do we sunset the licensure and go to certificate? And that was kind of the recommendation when everybody kind of said, we need to ask some questions first. So maybe to speak to, and I think Deshawn also came to me and said, we'd really like to have this discussion. So if it's okay, Madam Chair, to have her speak to that from the perspective of what they're seeing with the program, and then maybe give Debbie the same opportunity in terms of what's in the pipeline.
Yeah, that would be great to hear the information.
So can you hear me?
Yes, mostly.
Okay, I will get close to my laptop because that's where the mic is. So I'll be off camera just a little bit, but I'm here. What we're hearing back from our partners here locally, and I believe that Debbie can attest to my statement, is that our partners here are very interested in the licensures piece of the LMHT. Which allows that position to be able to give meds and administer medications. As we all know, with just kind of nursing education and trying to fill the gap in those who are leaving the profession and producing new nurses to take those bedside positions, that wages have gone up and facilities are looking for a way to manage those things without the high cost dollars of nurses. Now, I'm a nurse's nurse, so I'm not saying nurses are not needed, but what I'm saying is that facilities are definitely trying to be creative in how they are trying to staff those open positions and make for better personalized patient care. So in that, a lot of our facilities, a lot of our partners here locally have expressed the need for the LMHT and the licensure piece of that. Also, not sure if you guys have been watching the news, but we're building a brand new biomedical center here locally in Wichita, Kansas. And a lot of our partners, including ComCare of Sedgwick County, and then HeartSpring, which deals with children's behavioral disorders, are moving downtown to better partner with the nursing schools and the providers that will be located in that building. And so it just really, for us to have a robust program and to be able to solve some behavioral health needs here locally, it would be beneficial for us to continue with the licensure. And I spoke with Gary Heinault from KDADS, and he was really excited about the LMHT position because he's an LMHT. So,
Deshawn, how many students do you have in the LMHT program at Wichita Tech?
Currently, we have 10.
2. Okay. And Debbie, how many do you have at WSU?
I have 8. One's getting close. One will be finished in December, so we need to decide if she's gonna license her certificate.
Well, I think she's kind of already grandfathered her in there because.
Debbie, is there anything you'd like to share?
I think Deshawn covered a lot of it because the facilities do want LMHTs. they're not available, so they don't have them right now, but that's their desire, is to have the LMHT. And right now, one of our students is doing her clinicals, and she's at ComCare. And they have 4 LMHTs employed at ComCare in Wichita. And she's working with them, which really gives her an opportunity to see the LMHT role, where that's a little more difficult, working in some of the adolescent units and the senior behavioral units where there aren't LMHTs, and she's having to work with an LPN or an aide type of person, mental health technician type of person, because there's not anyone there for her to be with. So I think the opportunity is there, and I think we need to really consider the license, actually. I would like to shorten the hours and change some of that.
LMHT.
I think we're down to 30.
32. I just looked the other day. Yeah, 32.
And they renew on even years, so we shouldn't lose any this year. But, you know, as that rolls around, we've just kind of slowly lost folks as we could, because we haven't had a program in place. Our last graduates, I think maybe 22 was the last exam I gave. Well, we had one Camber when they started their program, and they put it on hold just because of the expense of the program for the only student they had. So unless we make some changes, I think they would actually be willing to restart their program if it had a more focused and maybe less intensive time commitment for the level that they're preparing for. And I think the question, Scott, I appreciate you bringing up the pharmacology piece, because that was a question. It really isn't in our regulations specifically. It talks about therapies for, being familiar with therapies, which I think Osawatomie, and the state hospitals that helped develop these regulations maybe assumed, but it was not clear. So I think that would be something we want to possibly be a little more specific about, if that's really one of the key pieces for the LMHT licensure piece. But I guess there is a good question too, whether, and I think Deshawn, you might have brought this up in one of the original task force meetings about, or I can't remember, maybe it was somebody else, but about the 2-level. What happens if there's a program where they could get a certificate after they've done so much, this much work, and then if they want to continue and do this other, then it can be licensed. And another quick question, Scott, for you, you said, some of the pay has kind of flatlined a little bit and that you might have to address that. But another question that we talked about a lot was, what about PNs that have specific certificate training for the behavioral health role, so that they have like a MHT certification as well as their PN? Would there be any advantage to that, or is that still a lower level than what they make as a PN coming into the facility?
We don't have a specific dollar amount that gets added for those credentials. We do look at it as part of experience, but we have talked about it because Larned's working with Barton County to do some micro credentialing work around with college credit, as I understand it. But our direct care staff, trauma informed care, the kind of basics of psychology, psychiatry, some skill things that advance their skills that are with college credit that they can use for something else, but as a kind of a micro credential. But we said, people will do that if we provide and pay for it, but they would probably also do it if they get some pay bump for putting those, you get 3 of the credentials and you it get an extra $1 an hour or something like that. So I think we've got some other places where we want to look at, as you upskill towards a credential, that there ought to be some pay recognition for that as well.
Yeah.
Not today, but that's in our planning.
Any other questions from the committee for Scott, Deshawn, Debbie?
I do have one question, and I don't know if this is for Scott, in the future for Scott, for the Kansas State Board, but we do have some questions or had some questions from partners regarding this position and how beneficial it would be for like peer-to-peer type of help in, with counseling and all that other stuff as, once they were to graduate. However, a lot of the, I think it was SAC, here, the Substance Abuse Coalition of Kansas, they were saying if they were to refer students and they had a background, how would that affect them? Because they don't want students to enroll in a program and then something hits on their background and then they wouldn't be able to finish or, complete. So that is something that people are asking, and as they are inquiring about enrolling here, they're saying, hey, I think maybe something will hit on my background. Can I be a part of this program? So I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
You get background upon entry into the program or entry, your background for licensure.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
Sudden, I can't remember what if that's addressed, like, I know we address it for our nursing, but in terms of background and we look at the same.
I think we look pretty much the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'd be, Deshaun, that maybe somewhat from our perspective, we would look at it the same way we do nursing, in that it would have to go for review, but again, those backgrounds of, depending on what, any felony conviction, it still kind of applies the same way that the nursing, that we look at it for the nursing license. So I don't know if that helps from our perspective, and Scott, if you have any other.
No, same thing in terms of employment. So there's a pretty firm line on prohibited offenses in a criminal background check that we would look at. But I agree, it's both a great opportunity for people that want to start as a peer and advance their skill and training. I think we've got this employment obstacle, which there are good reasons to have in statute, but it is a problem if, particularly in a public setting where we want to employ a lot of people and we kind of just say, if you've got a criminal background with prohibited offenses, you can't work in any of these settings or get a license. I think it is. I think we got to have a hard conversation about that one too, just given the workforce challenges broadly, to exclude a share of the population that have a prior criminal offense that prohibits them from state employment.
And Scott, help me know, where can we find what the state employment, like, is there something specific that we can find so that as we're considering that, as we're looking at this, to know what those offenses might be that we could keep them from working for the state? Because a lot of this is state employment that we're talking about.
Yeah, we can put together and send you the prohibited offense list, but it's pretty much a person or I think any felony, some person misdemeanors, but there's a list. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I can get that to you so you can see what it is.
Let's bring it back to the task force.
I have a question. Is there any license, like a LADAC or anything in Kansas where you could have that kind of background? Because a lot of people that recover from addictions have had some legal issues, and that is on their background check.
You can get a certification as a peer counselor that doesn't require or isn't prohibited by a background check, but then being able to take that credential and work is up to the individual workplaces. So nothing to prohibit you from getting the peer certification, but at least not in the KDAD's system, But then the employment's gonna be up to the employer, whatever restrictions they might have.
Thank you. So it sounds like maybe having the task force meet again. And Scott, were you part of the task force, or can we appoint him to help on the task
We would
force?
really like that.
If he would volunteer.
Of course.
I just, we keep giving more and more.
Maybe just at least a one-time commitment if we could. I think some feedback, when you were talking about, it sounds like you've had some discussions about hours and what needs to be included. Because we don't have Osawatomie at the table anymore, because of the time commitment, I think it would be helpful as we're looking at how this moves forward, to have that input from you in terms of what's too much, what's not enough. Do we need to make some changes? And just because you have that history of working with the hospitals and knowing what those requirements have been.
No, I'd be happy to participate. It may not be me, that may not be the expertise that you need, but we can make sure somebody's there that can speak with confidence from the program what the hospital needs are.
That was really diplomatic.
Well, and just some
I
input
was speaking with
about,
confidence too, but you probably want a real expert, not just somebody who tries to be consistent.
certification versus continuing license. I think your input would be valuable.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just wait, we'll add that to the December agenda for an update. And maybe additional recommendations to move forward. Sounds good. Okay, great. Well, Scott, we appreciate your time. And Melinda, yes, thank you both for joining us this morning, and sorry for that little delay in getting started.
That's okay. That's okay. Glad to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Sean, thank you for joining and providing input as well, and Debbie. Yes, we're putting everyone on the spot now. So, yes, no, and it sounds like there needs to be continuation, and we just need to update things and move forward with it. Okay. Let's see where we are in the agenda now. We've jumped around, so we are now down to the agenda for December 25. There's 3 items already on there: our education annual report, which Janelle will bring forward for us. The education database comparison for Kansas.
We're hoping to have that.
Okay.
It kind of goes along with the annual report. So,
okay. And then to assure that we reapprove all the undergraduate nursing programs at the December meeting. And then we'll obviously have a lot of site visit reports based on your busy fall calendar. Anything else we need to add to the December agenda? Oh, yes.
Try to get a task. We will try to get a task force. We'll get a task force meeting before that time, so we can maybe have something to update it.
Yes, recommendations and how we move forward. Okay. And Debbie, were you on that task force?
No.
Okay.
The issue is always in terms of a task force is if you have more than 2.
Yes.
I think it's committee members or board members. Or is it just
You
board
have
members?
more than the quorum.
Then it can be.
Yes.
Right, so having 2 would not violate that. Okay. We have been including WSU. It has been somebody else representing, but she's been unavailable the last couple of times, and I know that that's always an issue, but as long as we can keep WSU involved, and we have them on the task force, we have WSU Tech, and we had Osawatomie State on. I don't know at this point if we can get how you feel about, they have committed to try to be at the task force meeting if we feel like their input would be good. And then the other ones are involved just because they've had interest in whether it might be something their schools would eventually, if it continues forward, that they might want to do as well. So is there anybody you want added to the task force other than talking with Scott about who would be the best person to do that?
Well, we have Camber. from the past. I'd have to look at our list.
Well, I'm thinking we have Camber, we have WSU, WSU Tech, Osawatomie, and we had 2 or 3 other folks from nursing programs that also had their schools at one time that had interest.
Correct.
If we continue this about maybe coming on board and, you know, having, if we can define what it is and what the requirements are. So they've been in that as well, just because they've been part of LMHT. Barton County has,
Kathy County has been involved.
right, so we will continue to involve the ones that have been there. I just didn't know if there was anybody else that we should
Well, I
consider.
don't think we have representation yet for the new hospital. I'm not sure that we can do, but that's a game changer. Having that, because that really does increase the need to keep that LMHT.
You know, when that opening will be.
Oh, it's a ways out.
So it's still a year, and is it early 27? I was trying to remember what it's.
I think it's early 27. Because they're opening just right about the same time we're moving to the weekend.
Which is?
Fall 26 or January 27.
Okay. Because I thought I'd heard March 27, but that may have been something, and I don't know.
They kind of keep changing. They
Okay.
know how to control
Sure. So it sounds like another question might be, is there someone from that facility or who's working with their development for their staffing or whatever, who might be someone we could bring in? And I don't, Scott or Melinda may know that too.
Well, and Scott gave us really good information.
Yeah.
On their anticipated use of the LMHT.
I know you also, I know Deshaun said they've been talking with them, but I think you guys have as well. So I think we have input from them. I mean, I think we have some reasonable information from them. If there's anything specific, we probably could get that feedback to the folks.
Right, exactly. I think they'll be ready for it.
And I'm on the Kansas. Oh, excellence. I can't remember what. Kansas Behavioral Center of Excellence. And then, two that Scott said something. People around which talking about.
Okay.
Okay. Go meet every month.
Every month, okay. Perfect.
Any other agenda items for December? We have completed our work for today and we can adjourn. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.